Welcome to Wine Time's recipe section in the Fabulous Cooks Academy. Introducing Shona Foley, and today Shona is going to bring us a dish which I believe we as guys can take ownership over. It's the beef jambalaya, which sounds to me fantastically spicy and rich, but I don't know where to start, and Shona, you're going to have to help me. What are the ingredients of beef jambalaya?
Well, beef jambalaya, it's a dish that comes from Louisiana. It's a lot of different influences and a lot of different ingredients. So I'll actually run you through the ingredients because, as I said, quite a lot of things going on here. I'm going to start off with some chorizo, a Spanish spicy sausage with pimenton in it. 2 spices, some hot chili powder ground and some black pepper ground. The beef we're using is a nice strip loin cut into nice thin strips. I'm using some fresh celery, some fresh red pepper, some onion, some garlic, some blackened Cajun spice. This is our Cajun influence. It's a blend of spices, so we can talk about that again, what actually is in there. We have some ground ginger, some tomato puree, some long grain rice, some beef stock and some prawns. So it's kind of a dish that's a bit of a mixture of cultures, as you can see, a lot of different ingredients going on there.
And in the courses in Cooks Academy, which course would this actually be part of?
We actually run this course in our one pot evening class, and it's basically everything is cooked in the same pot. It's really easy to make. It doesn't take too long, maximum 30 minutes, and it's one of our one pot wonders.
Fantastic. And just don't worry anybody, because there are a lot of ingredients, but everything's on that PDF file, so don't be panicking if you're trying to scribble things down really quickly. You have plenty of time to download the PDF. Shona, as a fellow wine lover, you'll probably feel this wine would work best with, this dish would work best with a Shiraz, something spicy, rich, maybe a Côte d'Aron or a big Cabernet. Because again, we're thinking about winter time here, we're thinking about the long evenings, glass of red, and to go with all this flavour, so really exciting. So, the process, take us through the process, how we're going to go about this.
So I'm going to start off, I'm going to heat up my pan. The first ingredient I'm actually going to cook is the chorizo. Now, chorizo actually contains a lot of fat in it already, so I'm not going to use any oil when I'm frying it. I'm just going to heat my pan in advance. I've already chopped my chorizo, so I'm just going to pop that in here and let that fry, and you'll see a lot of the juices will come out, and we can use those juices to cook the other ingredients. While that's cooking away, I'm going to mix. This is a nice little tip from Cooks Academy. I have here my strip loin, which is cut into nice little strips. I want to season it with some pepper and some other spices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop everything into a bag. And you can use this in lots of different recipes, but this is one thing that we do quite a lot. Just open up your plastic bag, pop in your... It also prevents your hands. You don't have to get your hands really messy. It's just all done in the bag.
Very good.
In the meat goes. I'm going to pop in, this is my freshly ground black pepper, and some really hot chili powder, also ground. And basically then just tie a knot in the bag, and we can shake it literally in the bag.
Super.
So this is just a nice easy way, and it's not messy, your hands are nice and clean.
That's a great idea.
You just mix your meat around with the spices. Okay, so here we have our chorizo. This is one of my favourite ingredients, really, in everything. It has such a good flavour, and you can smell that smoked paprika coming out there. So now that it's just fried a little bit, I'm going to add in my celery, which I've already chopped, and my red pepper. And as I said earlier, there's actually enough fat in the chorizo to fry that off. So we'll just add those in there. And I just need to cook these for a couple of minutes. I want to get them nice and soft, a little bit of colour on them. And you'll see that paprika is colouring everything, that lovely kind of reddish colour.
Brilliant.
Okay, so I'll give that a couple of minutes.
So this Cajun cuisine draws on so many influences, Spain, Italy, Caribbean. It just seems a combination of taking all the goodness of that part of the world and producing a cuisine that's very appealing to countries that have a climate such as ourselves.
Absolutely, it's a real mix of cultures. I think probably it originated as some kind of a paella dish, as you say, and then they started to add in various different influences that we find out there in New Orleans and Louisiana. So you've got loads of spices from the Caribbean, you've got peppers and celery. It's a real mix match, lovely, lovely. And I think the wine you've chosen is a great option because it has lovely spiciness in it.
Super.
So I'm just going to chop my onion now because I'm going to add this in later on. Okay, so now you'll see these vegetables have a lovely kind of slightly blackened edge on them. So I think they're cooked, they're nice and soft, there's lovely flavour. I'm going to remove these from the pan. And then I'm going to put my pan back on the heat, turn it up a little bit. I'm going to add a touch of oil because I'm now going to fry off my beef in batches. I want to get a lovely blackened colour on the beef, and this is where we get our blackened colour for this.
Straight from the bag.
So the beef has been in the bag, and once your oil is nice and hot, make sure your pan is lovely and hot. You want to get a colour on the edge of the beef. Just put down little strips. Don't overcrowd your pan. You'll find if you do, you'll end up steaming your beef. We want to have it nice and hot. And you can hear it sizzling away there. So between the spices and the heat, we're going to get a lovely blackened edge on this beef. That's probably enough. Just give it a couple of minutes on either side. Make sure it's not overcrowded. I've got a lovely colour on my beef there. I'm going to take that out of the pan and put it to the side. Again, my pan goes back on. You'll have lovely little black bits on the pan. We don't want to lose those. We're going to recover those later on when I add my stock in. That's where a lot of the flavour is. I'm adding another little bit of oil because I need to saute my onion and garlic. So first of all, pop in the onion. Just need to simmer or saute this for maybe a minute or two. You want it softened, a little bit of colour on it. And you'll see probably a bit of colour coming from the bottom of the pan here as well. And remnants of our chorizo and paprika. So
it takes on the colour very quickly.
Now it's quite hot, that pan. Just turn it down a little bit. You don't really want the onions to catch. You don't want them to burn. You do want them to get nice and soft. So once they've softened off a little bit, we can add our garlic. Always be really careful cooking your garlic. It needs to be cooked at a kind of medium temperature, otherwise it could burn and you get a very bitter flavour in your dish. So I'm only going to cook my garlic for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay. Garlic in there for about 30 seconds to a minute. I'm now going to add in my long grain rice. Long grain rice should, when it's cooked, the grains should stay nice and separate and fluffy. They shouldn't be sticky. So just make sure the rice gets nice and coated with all those onions and garlic. I'm going to add in my tomato puree next. And again, mix that around. It looks a bit dry, the mixture at this stage, but I want to get the rice to absorb all those lovely flavours before I add in my stock. Next, I'm going to add in some Cajun spice. This is a blend of spices. There's lots of different things going on in there, and some ground ginger as well.
You actually buy that as Cajun spice?
You do, you buy it. Different brands will have slightly different blends, but it will have a mixture of paprika and other spices in it, maybe a bit of chilli. Okay. So once that's added, I'm going to cook that for about a minute and then add my stock.
What fascinated me was that for a dish called beef jambalaya, right at the tail end of the dish in the ingredients is prawn. Yeah. I mean, is that always in the beef jambalaya, or is that optional, or is it an essential part of the dish?
It's actually quite traditional, and I think it kind of comes from the whole idea of paella. This probably dish started off as being a paella, and it's now got the influences of the region and the area. But the beef and prawn would be very traditional to Louisiana.
So you could finish it off without prawn if somebody just doesn't have a shellfish.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'd be a lovely dish without it, but I think it's lovely. It's even better with it. So
yeah, great.
I'm now adding in my stock. Now I need all this stock really. The rice is going to absorb all this liquid. It'll take a little bit of cooking at this stage, probably about 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is turn up my heat right up to high, bring it to the boil, and then put on my lid and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. And then when everything's ready, we can put it all in back into the same pot. So we're going to add back in all of this at the very, very end.
Super.
Simmering for about 20 minutes, and you can see now that all that liquid has been absorbed, and you can see little dimples in your rice, which means it's pretty much fully cooked. You can test it, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be cooked at this stage. And really what we need to do is just mix everything back in together. You'll see some of the sauce, you just want to mix that through. I'm going to add in, turn on my heat again, because I want to heat through some of these vegetables that I've left to the side and the meat. Back in go my peppers and celery, my blackened beef, and some tiger prawns that have already been cooked as well. So I just need to really mix these through and bring them back up to heat. And you can see all those beautiful colours mixing in together. It looks really fantastic.
So now we have the one pot. This is like exactly what you said earlier.
Yeah, one pot. You can bring your pot to the table and serve it directly from there. Okay, so I think it's nice and heated through. Everything's ready to eat. So I'll just serve a little bit up on a plate. So that's our one pot wonder, our beef jambalaya, with some nice spicy Shiraz.
Absolutely. Ready for the winter warmer. Absolutely fantastic.